Before you watch this video showing how a titration is carried out, you should have watched the video on measuring liquids where the uses of pipette, burette, and volumetric flask are demonstrated. Procedures in which we measure the volume of reagent needed to react with analyte, that is the substance being measured, are called volumetric analysis. A titration is a form of volumetric analysis in which increments of reagent solution, that is the titrant, are added to analyte until the reaction is complete. From the quantity of titrant required, we can calculate the quantity of analyte. Titrant is usually delivered from a burette, while the analyte is usually measured by a pipette. An indicator is usually needed to indicate the endpoint of the reaction by producing a color change. To begin, inspect the burette for chips or cracks and also cleanliness. Also check that the stopcock works well. Follow the procedure described in the video on measuring liquids using burettes to rinse the burette. Then clamp the rinsed burette to the stand. Make sure it is clamped vertically and the burette tab is closed. Move the burette to the correct height for filling, with the top below eye level. Use a funnel to add the titrant into the burette. After that, remove the funnel. Open the stopcock to fill the tip and remove any air bubbles trapped below the tab. Should an air bubble persist inside, gently tap a finger against the location of the bubble to remove it. Refill the burette if needed. Drain liquid to set the 0 point, although it is not necessary to start at 0 point as long as you have a sufficient titrant volume for the titration. Remember to read the meniscus at eye level. Wipe off any drops adhering to the discharge tip. Record the initial reading to 2 decimal places. After getting the titrant ready in the burette, we now handle the analyte. Add a known volume of the analyte to a clean conical flask with a pipette. Ensure the pipette and the conical flask used are clean beforehand. The conical flask should be rinsed with DI water, while the pipette with a small portion of the analyte. Follow the procedure described in the video on measuring liquids using pipettes to measure a specified volume of the analyte and transfer it to the conical flask. Add a few drops of indicator suitable for your titration. You can now carry out the titration. Put a white tile so that with a white background, you can observe the color change more easily. Add titrant to the flask until it is close to the end point. Constantly swirl the flask during the titration and wash the walls with DI water from the wash bottle as necessary. You should adjust the liquid flow by the thumb and 2 fingers held around the stopcock, with a slight inward pressure on the Teflon plug to prevent leakage. Reduce the flow so that the titrant is added drop by drop slowly. Keep swirling the flask to ensure thorough mixing. The endpoint is attained when a permanent color change occurs. Any drop remaining on the tip should be wiped against the wall and rinsed down. It is part of the titrated volume. Finally, record the final reading. The following are some points that you should pay attention to. 1. Never fill a burette above eye level. You should always bring the top of the burette below eye level and fill it using a funnel. 2. Ensure the burette is securely clamped. If it is too loose, the burette may slip through the clamp and break. If the clamp is too tight, the burette may shatter. 3. Remember to remove the funnel from the burette when you carry out titration.